Hi, this video is more with a heavy heart. I have to bring you this one because obviously, yes, it's on the back of Anne Widdecombe's late passing, and obviously we know, yes, she was unalived, and obviously a lot of our MPs within Reform UK are now facing a major backlash, and that backlash is their lives are at risk. We know Nigel has had 500 plus death threats. We know it's not just him. We've had Angela Jenkins. Even her family has had major threats against their lives. You're gonna hear that because obviously I'm gonna play you bits throughout the live stream Zaya put out earlier today. Some of it is very haunting of what has gone on. And obviously, it's because of this vile rhetoric you've got coming from the extreme left wing of politics at the moment, and it's what caused the unalivement of the late Charlie Kirk. We didn't want that to come to our shores, but it was going to, because as they say, they can't get rid of Nigel and co any other way. This is the next step. They have to try and kick it up a notch, which is not the way the British people should go. Just because we are the strongest party, we are the next party of government, and they don't like it. Because you see, the Greens have faltered, Labour are faltering, Tories are disappearing into the non-existence. We are the next party of power. And to hear these horrible things and to why people would want to do these things to, and then obviously go after people like Nigel's daughter, who's not political at all, and then a paper give out her address. That is just beyond beggars belief. You should not be doing that, and the people who've done that need to bow their head in shame, and I'm sorry, you should be arrested for it, because you've got no excuse, because that's a security risk. His daughter is now a security risk. Oh, but they don't care. That's the problem. And obviously, you're just putting a target on people's backs and straight in the middle of the foreheads. Oh, but it doesn't matter. But it'd be the other way round if it was suddenly someone like Zach Polanski or Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham that this was happening to. Or say Tony Blair had been unalived. Oh, there'd be a huge uproar. Or say this was Sherry Blair, Tony Blair's wife, that'd been unalived. There'd be a call for 20, 30 days of mourning because it's a lefty. Or say Corbyn had been unalived. God forbid we'd be in mourning for 6 decades. That woke moron. But this is where it goes, and I understand where Zaya's coming from with everything he's put together, which when he becomes Home Secretary with us, he will protect every politician and previous politicians, because he does not want anyone to come to harm. And that's because and it's not party specific, he wants to protect everyone. Because you shouldn't have to be burying anyone. It's ridiculous. And when they're saying, oh, what about people's family? They're saying silence. Oh, there's only one member of family alive with Anne Widdecombe. And he was at Nigel's side laying flowers. So I think when Nigel spoke up the other day, I don't think he wanted Nigel to be silent. He wants the truth about what happened to Anne. And obviously it is a tea subject, and we need answers, and we need them now. because this is a left-wing T group. You only have to look at the LGBTQ terror groups that are going after certain members of our party with the bash to try and silence us. Oh, because then they're just too woke to understand. You've got to... There's only two genders. There always will only be two genders. There's only two sexes. Male, female. You can't change your chromosomes. Get over it. But I'm going to play you bits of this video, because obviously I want to show you the bits that are important that obviously Zaya's come across in it. I'll play the first bit as it goes out, and then I'll pause and skip to the other bits, because obviously bits are very vital, especially the Jenkins allegation and stuff like that was said to her, because I think that was vile. But obviously, please bear in mind some of this is not for certain ears. So I'll just start playing this for you.
Britain has been devastated by the news of another of our beloved politicians brutally murdered. After Sir David Amess and Joe Cox, now Anne Whittaker has been savagely killed in her home. All three died without any protection. This is unacceptable for a country with a £1.2 trillion annual budget. An attack on a politician is an assault on democracy itself. Anne was without doubt one of this country's most formidable and courageous politicians. She inspired me and countless others. She was unwavering in her belief, and she made Britain a better place. I can only imagine what her family is going through, and my heart goes out to them. I cannot tell you why Anne was killed. That is for the police and the courts. What I can tell you is that counter-terrorism police are investigating her murder as a suspected act of terrorism. And I can tell you about the climate in which she was killed. A relentless narrative from politicians and the media that Reform UK is a threat to be urgently stopped. A narrative so relentless, it constitutes incitement. And why are we targeted like this? Because we say things that are unfashionable among many in Westminster, but are popular in the country at large. Let me start with the most prominent. And it's incredibly difficult to repeat these words that have been said of our late friend, our late treasure, Anne. But we cannot ever allow this to happen again. And so I must. David Lammy, now the Deputy Prime Minister, described Anne as a, quote, poisonous bigot who wants to, quote, drag us back to the 19th century and, quote,
yeah, this bit is the bit where she's going through all the MPs and stuff where they've labelled her as a vile person. I'm sorry, that is not Anne Whittaker. When you've met her, she's not a bad person. She's an amazing woman. And to label her like this, I'm sorry, Lammy's job should go. Being Deputy Prime Minister, I'm sorry, he's a vile, evil person with no IQ. He has to go. His head should roll, because he has no clue who Anne Whittaker is or was. She was one of the most kindest, most wonderful women this country has ever had, and we've lost probably one of the best politicians this country could have ever known. And for him to treat her like that, I'm sorry, well, what was he like on Mastermind? No questions answered right. I'm sorry, he's more of a bigot than she could have ever been. Considering he wants us to send God knows how many trillion abroad. Oh, in reparations, what a thick gift. But we'll get back to it now for you, because there's more laughable bits for you.
Throw minorities out in the cold on the way. He boldly declared, quote, "We must stand up to them before it's too late." Before it's too late. We're streeting. Until recently, the health secretary said, quote, "If only science had a cure for Ann Widdecombe." A woman on Twitter said, quote, "Ann Widdecombe better go this week. She is a little fascist beast." This woman happens to have been, until just a few months ago, the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, Jess Phillips. Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, made the inflammatory declaration that, quote, "The greatest threat to the Britain we love doesn't come from Tehran or Moscow. It comes from within." I'm talking about Nigel Farage and reform. Vladimir Putin has murdered people with poison on British soil. The Iranian regime has attempted multiple terrorist attacks on British soil. Is it any wonder, with such rhetoric relentlessly levelled at reform, that some may be moved to try to eliminate that supposed threat through lethal violence? Lisa Nandy, Labour's Culture Secretary, was asked whether Reform were fascists. She responded, quote, "If it walks like a duck." The chairman of the Conservative Party likened Reform to Nazis. Instead of sacking him, the leader of the Conservative Party said he was, quote, "being funny." Ms. Badenoch, nothing about comparing anyone at Reform to Nazis is funny. Keir Starmer described Reform policies as, quote, "racist and immoral." West Streeting insisted that Reform was dangerous, nationalistic, and, quote, "using propaganda reminiscent of the 1930s. And Lucy Powell described Mr. Farage as, quote, "a threat to democracy." Look, these are a tiny fraction.
So you understand there where all these existing MPs are just vile people, and they don't really understand anything. They don't actually have a clue. When you actually look at their own parties themselves, if they actually take a deep dive, like look at Keir Starmer for example. Oh, he's let PDFs walk free. He's let all sorts walk free while he was in charge of the CPS. Oh, but that's okay. The late Jimmy Savile, just to name one of the major ones. But we let that one go, don't we? Because obviously we go, he didn't do it. When he clearly did, he was head of the CPS, he went across his desk and just into the bin. Because he didn't want to harm the BBC, because he was a massive fan of the BBC. Probably that much. He was getting bribes from the BBC, but we can't prove that one. But it is probably, we know what and what isn't happening. But we can understand why this country's going down the route it is. But it goes into further into the threats we've received, and I don't understand why this has been allowed to go on so far. And then people blame this mystical £5 million. Oh, well, you kind of understand why it's needed when we're getting these threats. Because obviously if it's 500 plus threats in just since January this year, that's 7 months. Imagine how many it'd be by year end for Farage. Just take that, have a think about that for a minute, because it will be catastrophically amount. And just imagine if he was unalived on British soil. There will be all out war on British soil if that happens. But as I say, it'd be the other way around if it were to be a right winger unalive. The likes of Zach Polanski, Keir Starmer, Corbyn. Because obviously you'd be saying, oh, we've got to now have a year's worth of celebration of their life. No. You can't have it one way and not the other. Because I'm sorry, why is one life more important than the other? Because obviously, really, Nigel's done more in politics than the likes of Jeremy Corbyn and especially Zach Polanski will ever do. Because Zach Polanski's just been airdropped into the Greens, for example, from absolutely nowhere. Yes, he was in the Lib Dems, dancing and singing on stage like a little prat, and under his old name, David Poulden, and now he's just this fake Jew. But we all know what his game is, and he won't be in the Greens for much longer because we all know who's coming to take his job. But I'm just going to fast forward to the next bit because obviously there's bits more in here that obviously I want to go through with you. Obviously there's the bit about the, where is it? Obviously here's the bit about get out of Wales. Here's a bit about how many threats Nigel's got.
The leader of our party lives his life under the ever-present threat of mortal danger. He has received 1,577 threats since February this year, including 597 death threats. The most persistent individual targeting Nigel sent 6 directed threats to him on Facebook between June the 24th and July the 6th, including a message telling him to, quote, get the F out of Wales before I just kill Nigel Farage. You can die at any effing moment. Another individual posted on X last month saying, quote, execute Nigel Farage today in all caps, followed by 2 further escalating posts within 8 hours. A third individual wrote on X, quote, can someone shoot Nigel Farage, make him a self-fulfilling prophecy? In fact, social media is awash with threats to kill Nigel. Such threats have been ever present for years, yet astonishingly, last autumn, just days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the authorities took the decision to cut the size of Nigel's security detail by 75%. Then the government sent David Lammy out to declare that Nigel, quote, flirted with the Hitler Youth. Reform donors thankfully stepped in, and the party covered the cost of a security detail the same size as before, commensurate with the enormous threat. This Labour government has since moved to cap funding in a manner designed to surgically choke off Reform's largest sources of funding. Make of that what you will. During the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, Sarah Pochin's office was subjected to at least 9 incidents, including Nazi stickers placed on the building.
That I can confirm because obviously I was up in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election and I helped out, so I can confirm the stuff that went on up and around that one. So yes, I saw those stickers and they were posted up there. And obviously, yes, we know the groups that were doing that one and the left-wing groups. And nothing was ever truly done. Why? Because the police, I would agree, are corrupt. They don't want to do anything. They never want to make those arrests because there's too much corruption in there. They'll upset too many people if they do. Well, my attitude is lock them all up, because the sooner you do, maybe they'll realise there are a few screws short upstairs, because we know they're indoctrinated youngsters of the LGBTQ orientation. Just so you understand a bit. But we'll go back to this for you so you understand where a bit more of it's coming from.
Eggs thrown at the door, threatening visits from members of the public, and an Antifa presence 2 days before polling day. Since her election, multiple specific online threats have been passed to police. The most serious current threat comes from militant transgender activist group BashBack, that has a published direct action guide explicitly targeting MPs who speak on gender issues. The guide instructs supporters to identify targets and, quote, hit repeatedly until they desist. Hit repeatedly until they desist. Dame Andrea Jenkins, the Reform Mayor for Lincolnshire, has received regular death and rape threats. In fact, there are so many it would take an entire press conference to go through them. But one said, quote, I hope your little boy is molested and raped by refugees, and Hamas will come after you. The toll of threats and death.
Whereas that is the one that hit me hardest, because obviously having kids, I would not want that being said to my kids. And obviously it does hit home with what can be said, and obviously to be said about your kids. It's horrible, and it shows how vile these people are. And obviously I do have the website as well for that BashBack. Obviously, yes, it is a trans lives thing. So what I'm going to do is just quickly bring you that up for you to see as well. 1 second, and we'll quickly run you through that, because obviously they are a vile bunch of people. Where is it? BashBack. And then we'll just minus YouTube. There you go, you can see that I've got it on the screen for you as well. So you can see it says, when trans lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, BashBack. Which is a load of crap, because obviously they cause more trouble than soft Mick. Obviously apparently got a manifesto. So transgender people in the UK have spent too long being made the victims of verbal and physical abuse of an NHS system rigged against us, and gender identity clinics designed to fail us. But then obviously it's not the NHS that should be paying for their gender reassignment, because obviously they should be forced to go private, because obviously why should taxpayers be paying for their mental illness? That's what the thing is. And of an incestuous government, it's not how incestuous, that's just pathetic. A news media environment that weaponises our demand for basic human decency as an ugly game. Oh, so you want to be able to go into women's toilets with your junk between your legs? Yeah, we really trust you. Every day we face new attempts to erase us from public life. Yeah, because you're not friendly people, that's why. So what do we do when reason fails and queer bashing continues? Oh yeah, fantastic wording. We bash back. Yeah. Sounds like really friendly people, don't they? All of the targets have blood on their hands. We refuse to let them wash it off. Yeah, I'm sure you're the ones that have blood on your hands. It's just awful. Obviously, I noticed they're on Blue Sky as well, which is the worst one. Because there's no time like the present, oh yeah. Ability to transition, yeah, well you need to pay for it, sorry. BashBack is a non-violent, well I'm sorry, you need to remove the non, because it is a violent direct action group. Change your wording. So you can see, so this is a group that needs to be re-described as a T group more than anything. So just so I'll quickly show you that. So BashBack is not a friendly group, but obviously I might do further on this to get people aware of it, because obviously this is not a good thing to be out there. So let's get back to the rest of that, because obviously you've seen obviously the majority of what this thing is, and obviously the rest of what Zai then goes on to do is prescribe what he would do when he comes into office, when Reform do take the next government, is we would then assign security detail to every MP, whereas at the moment we don't have that at the moment, which we want to make sure is covered within the coffers of the country, which is fantastic, because obviously we know the security threats are there. So obviously I'm going to wrap this up here, because obviously I'm at 26 minutes. It's quite a long video, this one, but it's very important, because obviously this is getting to the point of ridiculous, where MPs are now at threat, especially on our side of the spectrum. But it's not just Reform. You'll find likes of Rupert Lowe and others, because we're listening to likes of Andre Walker, it is likes of him is a threat as well. So be prepared in future to hear other names on the radar. So please like, share, pass this on, because this is important information. Because yes, I am saddened with the passing of Anne Widdecombe, but her name will live on, because she is one of the greatest MPs of all time. But we need to make sure this is not the first, and definitely will be the, no one else will get unalive going forwards. We've got to take steps to protect everyone else, because it's a scary new world. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.